Okay, perfect. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Web3JS Ambassador Coffee Chat. Today our guest is Greg the Greek, Gregory Marco. Um, I think to start with this chat today, I want to have this kind of an informal thing and not really like an interview. So feel free to interrupt Greg and ask any questions. Just raise your hand. Don't be shy. He's a nice guy. Um, but I know that he looks kind of like a serious guy. But yeah, that's fine. So let's just start with a short intro of Greg for those who don't know Greg. So yeah, just introduce yourself, Greg, please, and yeah, and then I will start with some questions that we have from the ambassadors.
Yeah, hey everybody. Excited to be here because Santiago's put a lot of work onto the community side of everything in DevRel, so thank you. My name is Greg. I'm the CPO and one of the co-founders at ChainSafe, so product. And prior to that, I was the CTO, and even prior to that, I was just an IC, kind of working on consulting projects and stuff like that. So slowly kind of transitioned my way through into different roles. I think I don't know. We can get, and I don't know how much more I can
go. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But that works.
So I will just start like with some of the questions from the ambassadors. Hi, Ese. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Ese. I will start with some of the questions from the ambassadors. The first one is, what have been the main contributions from ChainSafe to the Ethereum ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a good one. We've done a lot of varying stuff. I mean, like, I think the big main ones are probably Lodestar, so the consensus client for Ethereum, Web3.js. Obviously, those are the two big ones. Outside of that, we've done actually a lot of R&D work for the foundation. So we did a lot of node monitoring tools. So this is to try and help better understand what type of nodes are running. This is back before mining was still a thing and POS. So it's kind of seeing are they running Geth, what versions, what's the diversity breakdown between data centers and stuff like that. So we're doing a lot of work across the kind of networking stack to try and uncover what was going on. What else? There's a bunch of stuff.
I remember that I hear something, I think that was in Denver, about how we help with the migration from proof of stake, proof of work to proof of stake, something like that.
Yeah, that's through Lodestar, right? So, being the consensus client, we did a lot of work there. We've also done a lot of bug fixing and stuff like that into some of the other major clients. So Geth, for example, I think over a couple of years, we've found quite a few bugs that we were able to disclose, some more severe than others. And generally, I think a lot of people at ChainSafe has all contributed to a lot of core EIPs, right? So the improvement upgrades, myself included. And so, yeah, we've done a lot. I mean, we're core developers. That's what we started out doing. And so we've had a lot of work in the core development space, especially in Ethereum, and so have since brought that out more broadly across everything. But I think that's a pretty good high level, outside of generic, some of the consulting work that we've done for some of the teams.
Perfect. I have a question for the ambassadors who don't know what is a consensus client or a EIP, just to make sure that we are in the same page. Everyone knows what that is? EIP, a consensus client?
I would like a refresher.
Yeah,
for sure. But I don't remember exactly what that is.
For sure.
Yes,
so... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what did you say, Anum? The EIP or the consensus client?
Both.
Both. Okay, perfect. You want to say that in easy words, Greg?
Yeah. So, a consensus client. So in Ethereum, we have kind of two types of nodes in order to verify the chain. This isn't like super normal in some ecosystems, in most ecosystems, and before proof of stake, it was just you would run one piece of node software, and that would like verify the chain, whether it's through mining or staking. It doesn't really matter. In Ethereum, we separated the logic out, so we've got like consensus as one thing, and we have execution as the other. Execution is where the smart contracts get ran through. And on the consensus one, we're making sure that the nodes are all conforming to the rules of the chain. That's consensus and execution. We used to work a lot on the execution side, but then we built our own consensus client, which is called Lodestar. Something like Web3.js communicates directly with the execution client. That's where all the state lives. And then the Ethereum, the EIPs or ERCs, they're kind of the same thing. They stand for Ethereum Improvement Proposals, EIP. And that's what we write in order to decide on new upgrades to the network. So if we wanted to change the issuance curve, or we wanted to add a new transaction type, right? Like we've got 1559. That's type 2 transactions. We do those through EIPs so that everybody can conform to a singular standard.
And then I have a question actually. After it's an EIP is kind of confirmed, is it called like ERC, or what's kind of the difference of EIP and ERC?
Yeah, so ERCs are Ethereum request for comment, I think.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the main difference is that ERCs are not protocol requirements, so they don't have to like be within the node, whereas EIPs have to be. So this is like hard rules versus like more social concepts. So like the ERC20 lives in the ERCs. You don't have to write an ERC20, right? You can make your own variant, but it's probably really advised to, because it's what like people have standardized socially.
Okay, makes sense. Anu?
When you mentioned this consensus mechanism, there was a period when Ethereum moved from proof of stake to proof of consensus recently, right? Or was it 3 years ago?
Proof of work to proof of stake. Yeah.
Proof of work to proof of stake. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that something related to this Lodestar? Is that what you guys did to support that?
Yeah, exactly. So when proof of work was running, you would take Geth, for example, or Besu, one of those the execution clients that you see today. You would take that, and then you would run mining software, and that would do like the mining part of proof of work. Lodestar runs proof of stake consensus, so it uses Casper FFG, which is the consensus algorithm, and figures out how to coordinate with the other nodes on the network, what consensus means in this context of proof of stake for Ethereum. I'm not going to get into that because I think that'll just be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, when we merged, we had been running the consensus chain for a long time with no execution. And then at the merge date, the execution client dropped the mining software, and then it started reading from the consensus client for information about the network. And so we just kind of dropped this, added this, and now you have execution working with consensus. And that's what happened at the merge. And we participated. We had about probably 1% of the network running Lodestar at the time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been a little bit less. And we actually uncovered some bugs in Nethermind at the time of the merge, which was kind of nice. So that's what we did.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move into the next topic, a little bit more like personal things. Did you go to university, or what did you study? How you learn everything that you know about Web3 or tech until today?
Yeah, I went to U of T, so University of Toronto, for business, and economics and didn't like it, and then slowly tried to switch into computer science. I think that same summer I took a programming boot camp, and that's where I met Stu, one of the other co-founders at ChainSafe. And then probably like 2 years into trying to get into computer science, I couldn't, because I couldn't get one of my math grades high enough. And around the same time, we started ChainSafe. And so I slowly, for about the first year, I kept trying to finish, but it was just like too hard with the workload. And so I slowly left U of T because I wasn't in computer science anymore. I was only in econ. And I was kind of just learning on the side. And so to answer that question, yes, I did attend, and I did like 4 years, but I didn't like finish fully by definition, simply because I didn't meet the requirements. So like, so you have to have a certain amount of credits and in certain streams and disciplines. And the problem was I had like 3 different disciplines or 4 that I was going down and just didn't have enough in any of them. So I didn't technically finish. And most of my Web3 stuff was self-taught. I started at the application layer, but like immediately switched into like core development, working on forks of Get. And so I kind of like diverted very fast into that and went kind of in from JavaScript to Golang, or Ruby to Golang, really. But yeah, aside from that, just purely self-learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, this question is also related to the same thing. Like, what should I learn first if I want to become a core developer?
Oh, a core developer. That's tricky.
Golang, I would say.
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, like, it depends what your real goal is and what your skill set is, right? Like, I think playing into your skills. There's a client basically for every language, right? Go, Rust, JavaScript, NIM, Java. So it doesn't really matter which one you have. I think the most important thing is like contributing. And I think actually before you even think about contributing, it's probably just like understanding the specification. And like, so going to like GitHub Ethereum, the Ethereum GitHub, and then I think it's called like consensus specs. It's one of the pinned repos. Like actually like understanding it, or reading Ben Edgington's blog post. He has like a book that he's been building based on blogs to explain Ethereum consensus. That's probably the best place to start. He used to be a core developer and team lead at Besu before he kind of went independent.
Okay, then that's a tricky one to become a core dev.
I think you need to really understand the specs. That's like number one. If you don't understand the specs, like the code won't make any sense to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. One question from Irwin. Can we get a reference from you if we apply to an Ethereum Foundation program, VC acceleration program, or a job?
Me personally, probably not, but I'm sure Santiago or somebody can. Unless I work with you, obviously it's a little tough naturally.
Yeah, that makes sense, since you're not like working like day by day with them. But yeah, for sure, we'll give it that with Ria as well, which is like the VP at ChainSafe, the VP of marketing. And we have, this is a long one. What are some key challenges you encounter when starting your core dev career? Are there key things that you would like us to know in order to succeed in the Web3 space as a dev, technical writer, or DevRel?
That's tough. I'll start with learning. I think we've reached a point where it's kind of impossible to know and keep up with like over probably 60% of the things that come out, and to be like a subject matter in them. I'll be completely frank. I just don't think it's possible anymore. I think you can be like partially caught up, and that's good enough. There's just too much knowledge being shared all the time. And so picking a discipline within the Web3 space that excites you and motivates you and doubling down in it will probably be the most effective. For example, I have a very good understanding of things from consensus to networking to like how wallets are built and how standards are written and done. And, you know, I pretty much cover the whole stack. But like I can do ZK, understand ZK and L2s and all that stuff. But like I really don't focus on any of it. The main things I focus on are on like wallet UX kind of interaction levels. And that's kind of where I focus. I have an understanding of what's going on everywhere else, right? But my main focus is wallets and the UX and standards. And that's where I really know. And I think it's important. You just got to kind of pick that niche that you really like, and use like a group like this to have other people educate you on the other niches, right? You don't need to be experts on them, but as long as you're like keeping up to a degree, that's all you really need to do, right? So picking a niche is super important and will help you be successful in like anything you do. Hold up, I'm like looking back at that question again now. I mean, key challenges that I had. Yeah, I mean, like I call it shiny object syndrome. You know, every time you like start something, you look to the left and there's like some other shiny thing you want to pick up and like check out and look at. And the problem is there's like, because of the amount of information being shared, you're gonna constantly want to like try to do something different. And I think the worst thing you can do is like give up within 6 months. There's like a mental barrier that exists at the like 6 month mark of like learning, building a business, whatever. Like it honestly, I don't know. It applies honestly almost standardized for everything. You're gonna want to give up and move on in 6 months. And like you kind of have to push past that and really like dig a little bit deeper. But I honestly like just picking a niche, I think is the most important. And you don't have to do it right away. Experiment, spend your first like 6 months or whatever, like trying a bunch of different things, but then like double down on like one area.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I was starting, I had the same issue that I wanted to, when I was doing everything, I wanted to become a blockchain developer. And then I discovered Solidity, and then, okay, I want to do something related to security audits. But then that was too advanced. And I was like, for a junior, no one will give me a job into that thing. And then I wanted to do like DeFi. And then I just ended up in the dApp development here with Web3.js, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it's just about choosing something that you enjoy and going all into that thing. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is a good one. What is the easiest way to join Chainsec?
Wow. I mean, describe easy. Right? the easiest way to apply is to just apply. But I don't think
I will actually answer this one, because I remember now that I have a good relationship with Ria. She told me, I hire you because your attitude in the first interview. That's what gives you the job. So I think having a good attitude for the interview is what will make a change. Just I remember before I had my first interview, I was applying for a DevRel for Sigma, which is like a bridge. And I didn't know anything about that. But then I was just reading the docs that they had, the repo, and just asking a lot of questions like related to the product. I even saw that they were doing like a workshop 1 year ago on YouTube. So I watched that workshop, just learning about Sigma. And then when I had the interview with Ria, I asked a lot of questions. And then she was like, okay, this guy, he's really interested in the role. So yeah, I think that's the best way. Just be prepared for the first like interview, to show that you are really keen to learn. Okay, we're putting more questions here. Okay, I see that everyone is really engaged. What is the best way to get funding for open source projects, and what strategy should I follow, Irwin?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah, what is the best way to get funding for open source project, and what strategy should I follow?
Yeah, this is a tough one because the landscape's changed quite a bit. Oh, geez. So one of the big ones is like you need to, if you're pre-development, right? So you haven't really started. That's probably the most challenging nowadays. Back in the day, you could kind of like write like a kind of like a document, scoping document, like a PRD, right, to explain what you're going to build and like why it's useful. Nowadays, I think you need to have a little bit more of a head start. The easiest low friction way is probably through something like Common Stack, Giveth, because I think they're a little bit more open to like newer stage projects. They've got good community building tools. From there, transitioning to like Gitcoin or something like that, so that you can get a little bit of exposure. Depending on the project, it might qualify for like certain foundations, so maybe the EF or Octant or some others, even Optimism Retro PGF. But I think like when designing your, maybe the tool you're building, understanding at the beginning who it's very useful for and like what type of communities would value from it, I think is the most important part to deciding that. Because if it's, for example, something that is very useful only for Optimism users, then obviously you have a very high chance of getting like a Retro PGF grant through Optimism. But if it's like some generic, like, not that this is bad, but I'm using it because I think it's the best example I can remind, a generic like portfolio manager, it's not going to appeal to like a lot of foundations, right? But if it's like, some like portfolio manager that tracks like how your L2 gas consumption on OP is spent or something like that, and I don't know, I'm making it up on the spot, but like something really like hyper focused, you might have a better chance that way.
Okay, perfect.
Providing value, I mean, is number one, and that's a hard topic in itself, but trying to find a way to provide value is like how you do that.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I have a question. Like, how much time you have? Like, you have like 15 minutes more, because they are kind of really engaged, asking more questions. So just to know, like, if I should.
Yeah, I've got time. I mean, like, I'm just going for a run after this, so I've got tons of time.
Okay.
Just gets
Okay.
hotter, but it's okay.
Perfect. Then that's fine. How important has mentorship been in your career, and how will you recommend finding a mentor in this field?
This is something I start honestly, like, this is something I wish I had. I haven't really had a good one. I don't know why, but I think it would have saved me a lot. I've only started to get like mentorship more recently, which just sounds like really ironic. It's definitely struggled quite a bit trying to find one back in the day. And what I've noticed now is that, I wish I had one when I was 7 years ago starting Chainsaw. Nowadays I have kind of mentorship from like various different people for various different reasons. And I think that's kind of the key thing is like, you don't need like a generalized mentor. And sometimes they're like as closer than you think, you know what I mean? Like I've got a mentor to help me with just like generic, like finance things, right? That like I can talk to these things. I've also got one that I can talk to about like just business, and things like that. I think sometimes too, like if you're struggling to really find somebody as a mentor, the question really is like, what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for someone to like debate with and give guidance that way? Or are you looking for somebody to more or less just like talk to about things? And I think this is something that like some tool that I've used is I've actually like more or less, I just need someone to like talk over things with and rationalize. And so I ended up being able to do that that can be uncomfortable too, right? So I ended up doing that through therapy, which I found to actually be like super, super valuable, right? Using, there's different flavors, obviously, but rationalizing and talking through things that way really, really did help. And yeah, I think it's really hard to find like a mentor that's going to check all your boxes. And instead you kind of need to think about like, what is like the sufficient criteria that you need, and how does that help you? And just move that way.
Okay, that's amazing. Actually, I wanted to share something. When I started as a DevRel, I was also looking for mentorship, but it was really hard to find someone. And I was in some conversations with Patrick Collins because of the layer one that I was working for before. And then I was like, hey, Patrick, I would like to have like a mentor. But then he asked me, yeah, for sure. What do you want me to teach or to help you with? And I was like, I don't know. So sometimes you want like a mentor, but you don't know like how to get value from the mentor. And at the end, I just discovered like the best way was just to get feedback from him. So then I make a video. I send the video to him like, hey, what do you think about this video? And then he gave me a lot of feedback like, you should change the audio, you should put this in the intro, like a lot of things. And yeah, sometimes just being like more specific with what you are expecting from a mentor will help you in the mentorship kind of thing. Okay, another question that we have. Oh, I always ask this question to everyone. As a leader, which books do you recommend for becoming an inspirational leader or for effective team management? You went for the run earlier.
Sorry, I had to. I was really thirsty, so I wanted to
That's
get
fine. That's fine. Do you hear the question? Do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, books.
Oh, yeah, books.
I'm a really bad reader. I'll be honest. I read books. Like in 1 month, I'll read like 20 books, and then I won't touch a book for like 2 years. So a lot of leadership books, and this is maybe a hot take. I don't know. I don't think it is, but I think more people need to hear it. A lot of these like leadership books, which I've read a lot, of them, are written by like people that have like, they're written after somebody has like scaled something dramatically, and scaled a business to like thousands of employees, it's tens of hundreds of $1 million in revenue. And they're written in such ways that they kind of tell you like, oh, I'm going to tell you how to like avoid making all the mistakes that I made. And sometimes don't even talk about those mistakes. And it's a bit ironic because I doubt they would have ended up where they ended up had they not actually experienced those mistakes. Right. And so like they're kind of like taking out the like important good stuff, at least what I think is the important and good stuff, from the books. So I think it's less of, I think when reading these, it's kind of like the lesson learned from most of them is not about like what not to do, but rather kind of identifying like how they like adapted to things that went wrong and like what the attitude was around it. That's my preface, because I'll list a bunch of books that I think are like maybe decent, but I wouldn't say are like the gospel. I'm trying to think of stuff I read more recently. Oh, actually, I have it right here. Big fan of Nassim Taleb. Fooled by Randomness. Ugh. Fooled by my camera. Slightly blur background. Nope, still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Remove all. Fooled by Randomness. Nassim Taleb. Really good book. He's got the Inserto series. I think the whole series is good. It's not really a leadership book by say, but I think it's like a really good book about like, it's a really good series in general about just like things, probability and like stuff like that. A little bit of philosophical math. Let me go to my Goodreads. Hold up. It's worth spending 5 seconds on this to like actually,
Yeah, to give the best book. I would recommend my life changer book, which is The Magic of Thinking Big. But yeah, sometimes you think that you need to think a little bit bigger, that you're not capable of things, or you want to conquer the world, you should read that book, The Magic of Thinking Big.
What account did I use to create my Goodreads? This is so confusing. Okay, Goodreads isn't. Oh, I have Goodreads on my phone. Sorry. This is like an average day in my life. I tell people I like have something ready, and nope. My profile. I'm trying to say I'm in like one of those ruts where I haven't read in a while, so I'm like kind of like I don't even remember what I've read. And I recently moved, so all my books are not in a shelf that I can just like look. They're just gone.
You should get a Kindle instead of having all the physical books.
Something nice about touching it, you know?
I don't think so. I disagree.
Never Split the Difference is actually really good.
Oh yeah,
it's not really a leadership book per se, but it's like a very good like
business.
Yeah, just like how to like deal with stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
How do you see books that you've my books? There we go. Yeah, Never Split the Difference. I mean, there's like all the generic ones, but I never really liked any of them. I read them, and they were just kind of like this. Wow, what happened to all my books?
Okay, actually, let's do something. Let's move to the next question, and then
if I can find these, I'll send them to you after.
Yeah. So we don't. Yeah, we just stay waiting. Okay, I will ask the last 4 questions. So the first one is, let me just put it in the chat. It's a little bit long. What problems would you love to solve for developers in Web3 if you wanted to build a software as a service business? And what kind of projects would you build? Let's give some ideas. I put it in the chat as well. It's like a little bit long.
What? Really putting me on the spot.
Put in the last 4 questions.
Okay.
You can answer in any order you want.
I think the first one's really hard to answer. Unfortunately. What are the ideas you'll be looking for in a portfolio?
I would say that one of the main things that you're really passionate is about UX, chain abstraction. Maybe you can give a quick intro of what is chain abstraction. I'm sure that that's like a new idea for everyone here, new concept.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know what chain abstraction is, it's like a general umbrella term to try and put multiple things into like a single category. And so chain abstraction's goal is to basically say we're trying to obfuscate away the fact, maybe obfuscate's not the right word, but it's trying to make the interactions between multiple blockchains easier for the user. And so this comes in many different flavors, but like, you know, there's like bridging, there's balance aggregation, there is account abstraction. Like these are all kind of topics. If you want to read more about it, I would look up the Cake framework by Frontier Group. I'll write it in the chat. I'm very, very, very big on chain abstraction right now. What ideas would you be looking for in your portfolio to hire? I guess like this is in relation to like, you know, I look at a CV and see like what past experience they've had. I mean, it's so dependent on the role and stuff. I also don't do like a whole lot of hiring myself, but I think when I do, I think anything that just shows, you know, if you were, I mean, the number one thing I look for, really, I don't really look at CVs. Like, we actually used to never require CVs at ChainSafe for a very, 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 very long time, until we started getting like really a lot of spam. Then we had to like add it as a filtering mechanism. Life. I'm more concerned really with, like, as Santiago put it earlier, like, he kind of put it in I think the word he used was like motivation or passion. I call it hunger. It's like, you show up to an interview so well prepared that you found like something we did a year ago, and you're like questioning us on it. That shows like the fire that you've got in you. And I think that's more important than anything on your CV. And I think that's like, should be acknowledged, right? It's about like what you want to get to and how you're going to do it, more than what you've done in the past. Because, I did nothing in the past. I was like a bar back. That's all my past history was. So if someone like, only engaged with me based on my CV is pretty bad, aside from just the ChainSafe side, right? So like, not very relevant. So that's what I would say. I don't think like it's purely about the CV. I think it's also about like how determined you are to work there and to know everything about them. Can you share a pivotal moment or challenge in your career as a leader and how you came over it? Pivotal moment, a challenge. I can't like pinpoint this to a single instance, but at some point in my life while at ChainSafe, I came to this like stark realization that I talk too much. And I just started to like listen and not jump into conversation very fast, and kind of just let people work out their own stuff, whether it's in a one-on-one or a presentation or whatever, and just kind of giving that like 10 seconds for people to just like relax and see if they have anything else to say. And I think that's probably like what I see as my like more pivotal moment. I've heard from a lot of people that like ask me the question of like, how do you just stay so calm and collected? And I'm just like, I just don't talk, only talk when you absolutely need to. And I think it works really well. Okay, I do have one book actually that I really like. Very controversial book, and I need to preface it with that because like the author is very controversial. The book itself, I think there's only one chapter that's like bad. And I'm just precursoring this because like when I read the book, it was prior to the author having any drama in their life. Okay. The book is called 12 Rules of Life or something like that by Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is not the greatest human being. I'll be very honest. Not the greatest person. He was a teacher at my school when I was in university, and that's why I read the book before finding out about all this. I was there when all the drama went down, basically the protest. The book itself is quite good. I remember having a lot of learning lessons from that, and take it however you want, but, don't condone his actions. The book was actually not bad. I'll keep coming up with books though.
Yeah, that's fine. I will ask you for a screenshot of your rates, and then I can share that in the group. Okay, and then the last one. What are your tips for starting meaningful conversations with new people at conferences? Okay,
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I'm in like that level of like, social burnout where I'm just like so tired of conferences, of like talking to people. But what does work and what I do, because I'm tired of like the generic talk, is honestly like, I don't know, you probably, if you've been to like a couple conferences, you've probably run into some similar people. right? Or you might even have friends that like from this space or different work or whatever that you've known for like, I don't know, years on end. But there's a good chance you actually don't know anything about them. And I think like when it comes to actually like having a conversation, it's like getting to know the person before talking about anything that you actually want to talk about is probably the most valuable. And what I mean by that is like, not asking them where their like mother grew up, or like overly personal, but like leading questions of like, I get like what like motivates them on the weekend to do shit. I don't know, like what's like a hobby, and then just kind of like leaning into like things that you would want to talk about, in like a non-work setting, I think is like kind of valuable, and I'll probably go a lot longer than just trying to talk about work the whole time.
Yeah, and that's true. That makes sense. When I go to conferences, I also try to actually talk about some not really personal things, but not only like about selling the product. Like, oh yeah, I work for Web3.js, and Web3.js is a library that allows you to do this, and that. Like that's kind of boring. And yeah, I just try to actually try to get a friend. That's what I try to do when I go to conference, to actually make friends, and those friends can become something bigger or something else in the future. But yeah, just not trying to go there for business to speak to people.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, those that were like everything, all the main questions. I don't know. Someone else wants to add something, want to say anything? Okay, no one. Okay, let's take a photo before Greg leaves. Malima, Arpit, and Gideon, can you turn on the camera, please? We're gonna take like a nice photo of the call today. Yeah, let's wait. I hope they're not in the toilet right now. Let's wait for them a few seconds. Gideon, wake up. Let me text him on WhatsApp. Okay, let's give him like 20 seconds. I wanted to share with the African guys here, Gideon, Ese, Malima, and Emma, that I will go there like in 1 month. So yeah, Malima is helping me a lot with all the different things. Okay, Gideon, you came back from the toilet. You're here. Nice. And now let's take a photo. We'll take a photo in 3 seconds. So smile, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that looks good. Okay, perfect. Let me just send it to the group. Oh yeah, here. Okay, amazing. So yeah, Greg, thank you so much for your time today. You can go on the run. Yeah, and everyone, feel free to ask Greg whatever. Follow him on Twitter and ask him questions. He's really active on Twitter. Yeah, I will put like his Twitter is already in the spreadsheet. So yeah, it was great to meet you, and maybe we'll have you again in a few months here. Thanks for the advice. Okay, Irwin says thanks for the advice.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, everybody. All the best, and enjoy your weekend, and hopefully hear from you soon.
That's fine. Perfect. See you, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, guys. So if you want, you can stay like 5 minutes. I don't know if you want to say something. What do you think about the meeting today? I don't know if there is something you would like to. Oh, let me actually stop the recording. How can I stop this?